Thank you, Speaker. You know, Speaker, there are more people in the gallery than there are people in the ANC benches. The ANC is not taking Parliament serious anymore, and they are a majority.
Honorable Dozie, it's fine.
Can the Speaker...
Thank you for the information. We note.
You must note it and call them to order, Speaker. We're talking about women.
Order. The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Debate on 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. Count me in, together moving a non-violent South Africa forward.
The Minister of Women in the Presidency, the Honorable Shabangu.
Honorable Speaker, Chairperson, honorable members, distinguished guests, the theme for this year is 2016, 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children. Count me in, together moving a non-violent South Africa forward. This is an inclusive message calling to all South Africans to commit to reject violence against women, any vulnerable person, women and children in particular, and contributes to social cohesion and nation building, a means to achieve a just and equal society. However, social cohesion and nation building are not achievable as long as more than half of the population in this country remain poverty-stricken, unemployed, and subjected to discrimination, inequality, and violence. South Africa is among the countries with the highest rate of violence against women and children, despite the unprecedented bodies of laws and well-best practice model institutions to address this scourge. Several studies have attempted to identify the root causes of violence against women and children in South Africa. This comprises a complex web of factors that conspire to make violence against women and children a norm. To unroot this scourge will take a fundamental transformation of societal attitudes and mindsets that have been cemented over generations and are reinforced every day by culture, tradition, religion, and the media, to mention but few. We definitely need the deconstruction and RDP of the mindset of members of the communities to ensure that women and children are respected and valued in society. The empowerment of women cannot be achieved without the socio-economic transformation of society to accelerate economic growth and overcome the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, which women bear the brunt and is the breeding ground for violence against women. South Africa adopted the 16 Days campaign in 1998 as an intervention strategy and a period of heightened campaigns on violence against women and children towards creating a society of free violence. However, this year's approach is different. We are implementing the hashtag 365 Days of Activism in a true sense, making it real, going to communities to talk to them to understand their challenges. We will be starting the journey of assessing the gains that were brought by democracy, whilst also focusing on the continued social ills, especially violence against women and children, and its impact on women's economy. According to the World Bank, conservative estimates of the economic costs of loss of productivity due to violence against women are around 2% of GDP globally. The cost to public health has been established. What has not been investigated is the cost of loss of productivity to women themselves due to violence against them. In the quest to eradicate violence against women and children, the department will embark on national dialogues on violence against women that will see it traversing the country, talking to women and men from all spheres of life, starting from Limpopo during 16 Days campaign and rolled out to other provinces throughout the year in 2017. They will be convened per district municipalities and will also focus on specific communities such as correctional services, universities, the legal profession. These dialogues will provide a platform to the nation from rural areas to the urban areas, professionals to business people, workers, housewives, young people to the old, telling their personal stories with regard to the violence they have experienced as victims or survivors at home. Workplaces or institutions created to build the economy of the country and for the economic development of the nation. We'll also be talking to perpetrators to understand what leads them to commit such violence of women and children's rights to safety. The dialogues will also provide an opportunity to government to assess and evaluate the services and institutions that it has established for empowering women economically and for the reducing the high incidence of violence against women and children, and specifically women and children in particular. This will stimulate a shared understanding of the challenges facing women and commitment to finding new solutions that will facilitate public contribution into policy decisions and law reforms. The national dialogues have 5 pillars. The first is conversation with communities. The purpose is to authentically engage members of the community on the causes and the extent of violence against women and children and possible solutions thereof. To make members of the communities aware that violence continues because they turn a blind eye to it and do not want to be involved in thinking that it is not their problem, whilst it is theirs as much as it is their neighbors. To generate public knowledge that can be used by communities to respond to and eradicate violence against women and children in their communities. The second pillar is the counseling and health service. Violence against women is an extreme traumatized experience, and the emotional scars associated with it can often outlast the physical impact. The dialogues may reopen the wounds. Therefore, we are partnering with the Department of Social Development, Department of Health, and the professional organizations of psychologists and psychiatrists in order to ensure that victims receive counseling. However, there may be women and children with fresh wounds that they have not received counseling. This will also provide an opportunity for them to receive counseling. Rural societies experience unique problems in accessing health services, and health issues do contribute to violence. Therefore, the dialogues will also facilitate access to health checks, testing, and other services through the mobile clinic. The third pillar is skills development and empowerment. Economic dependence is always cited as one of the reasons why women are subjected to violence and endure such violence. Violence and abuse extend fear on victims to the extent that they do not think that they can survive outside their homes in the absence of the abuser, and therefore remain in the abusive relationship to avoid the unknown life of poverty, whilst in actual fact they are living in poverty. Economic abuse is defined as a domestic violence in the Domestic Violence Act 116 of 1998. Hence, national dialogues also incorporate skills development and economic empowerment in order to empower women in abusive relationships to leave those in those relationships. Over and above the challenge of violence, South Africa has a challenge of skills deficit, especially the artisanals and technical skills. Therefore, education and skills development is one of the key strategies to address the triple challenges. Thus, providing these skills to women will increase their employability and enable them to start their own businesses. The Department of Women is partnering with the Ekurhuleni Artisans and Skills Training Center to provide training to women on welding, plumbing, boiler making, rigging, pipe fitting, painting, and others. The training will continue beyond the national dialogues, and it involves 7 steps to being a qualified artisan. The department is also partnering with several sitters which will identify women who fit their sector for training and development, including giving them bursaries to pursue certain courses. These partnerships will address South Africa's shortage of artisan skills. However, what is important for me is the fact that we will be giving women artisan skills, which is an area where they are extremely underrepresented. The 4th pillar is access to justice and service delivery. Women feel that the criminal justice system is failing them because of attrition, where not all reported cases are prosecuted and not all prosecuted cases result in conviction. The focus of this pillar will be to ensure that dormant or cold cases are reopened and victims are informed about the status of their cases or the outcome of the investigation. We are partnering with CGE, women lawyers, justice centers, and paralegals to facilitate access to justice for victims. We will also be working with IPID in order to ensure that women know where to report police misconducts. The fifth pillar is the monitoring and evaluation of available infrastructure and services to enhance access to justice. Access to justice and women empowerment requires efficient and enabling infrastructure. Women who lived in deprived areas have a greater burden as they must spend more time fetching water or wood for energy, far due to lack of infrastructure and related services in their communities. For example, access to basic needs such as water and energy are important in promoting and protecting women's rights to safety. The lack thereof results in women being raped while fetching water or walking in dark streets. This pillar aims to assess the availability of infrastructure, institutional mechanisms, and services in the municipality, to investigate whether they are functional or not, to assess whether officials with the sectors have been trained and to make recommendations to improving access for services. Working together as the fifth pillar to move South Africa forward, the department is working together with the Department of Social Development in order to align the national dialogues and imikonzo, and will have access to the command center SMS facility during and after the dialogue to provide assistance to victims and to the collected data. The department will also utilize the household and community profiles created by Mikonzo for identify individuals to be included in the artisanal skills training. The department will also be partnering with the Department of Health on the HIV and AIDS dialogues, which will focus on young women between the ages of 15 and 24 in the district municipalities that have the highest rate of HIV and AIDS. The department will also be partnering with the Department of Higher Education and Training on AIDS projects that will be rolling out dialogues on sexual violence at universities from February 2017. The outcome of dialogues will inform the review of the program of action against women and children. It is also envisaged that dialogues will revive existence or create new opportunities that will coordinate communities in their response to the challenges they experience, which will monitor and evaluate government's response to violence against women and children, and provide a feedback loop to the criminal justice system. The implementation structure of the dialogues is the partnership between government, Chapter 9 institutions, civil society, faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, institutions, business, labor organizations, and other relevant stakeholders who work within these sectors. And once more, want to emphasize that the Count Me In continues to be relevant as we proceed with the matter of addressing violence against women in our society. In conclusion, I want to say the outcome we hope will form part of the review, as I've indicated, in ensuring that both women and children can live in a safer South Africa as envisaged in the National Development Plan. Thank you, Chairperson. I have 7 minutes more.
The Honorable Ziki.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, members of Parliament, honorable ministers, guests in the gallery, Tumelang. 4 months before Zanele Khumalo died, she wrote in her diary, "Today is the last day a man abuses me." Little did she know that she would be strangled to death by her boyfriend and a father of her unborn child. As we will be unveiling these 16 days of violence against women and children this year, Let's remember those women who have lost their lives because of the abuse of their intimate partners. Let's all say enough is enough. Let all men say, count me in fighting this disease that continuously affecting our country. Let the voice of our beloved President Nelson Mandela be the first to be heard as he reminded us that, open quotes, to deny people their human rights is to challenge their humility. Honorable Speaker, the ANC in its conference in Mangaung resolved that whilst progress has been made in the development of women, the establishment of the Women's Ministry that focus on women development, there is still a need to effectively implement programs and policies geared towards the development of women, in particular, those live in abject poverty, the disabled, and the most vulnerable in society. And these include access to opportunities, access to free basic services, and continue to systematically fight patriarchy in our society. Honorable members, it is important because 16 days campaign is important because it is part of our 365 days of activism to eradicate gender-based violence. At the launch of the 16 days campaign on the 25th of November 2014, Honorable President Jacob Zuma said that activism against gender-based violence should be a year-long and not limited to 16 days. The department heeded the president's call and launched the hashtag 365 days for no violence against women and children and the hashtag Count Me In. The theme for this year, Count Me In, together moving a non-violent South Africa forward. This year, the hashtag 365 days of activism will include community dialogues, as the minister have indicated, where government will also partnering with civil society, traditional leaders, faith-based organization, and all other sectors in the community. In 2014-2015, there was a participation of government departments at both province and national, including local government, and the interfaith organization and civil society organization. They contributed to the massiveness of, there was a lot of contribution to the massiveness of the campaign, leaving behind communities like in Reiger Park, play parks for children, food gardens, and sports people mobilized as ambassadors for the campaign. We reached out to 46 African countries, reaching about 500 million people through one gospel program, SABC, ETV, and other media platforms. The campaign has and continues to generate an increased level of awareness among South Africans pertaining to the negative impact of violence against women and children on all members of the community. It has also encouraged men and boys to be counted in as ambassadors to be active participants in the fight against this violence. The department also has partnered with correctional services to involve male prisoners and parolees to create a safe spaces in communities by cleaning hotspots, open fields, wherein there's high grass, dilapidated buildings, and deserted areas which tend to be crime hotspot where fatalities of gender-based violence are often found. The department also have partnered with COGTA and the Department of Sports and Recreation for establishing sports parks in those hot sports areas. We must continuously engage civil society, Honorable Speaker, especially the faith-based organization, the media houses, unions, sports fraternity, private sector, civil society organization, and traditional leaders so that we can be able to shift the society's view that violence against women and children is not a government responsibility or a criminal justice system responsibility, but a societal responsibility, and that failure to view violence as a societal problem results in all efforts failing to eradicate this scourge in our communities. Honorable Chairperson, in South Africa, gender equality is entrenched in Section 9 of the Constitution. The rights to health, socio-economic, and others are also guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. Section 11 and 12 of the Constitution also protects every woman's rights to life, freedom, and security. And in line with this provision of the Constitution, The Victims Charter was developed in 2004 to ensure that the victims remain central to the justice system to eliminate secondary victimization. Domestic violence was also passed, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, the Children's Act, the Customary Marriage Act, and other legislations that have been able to assist the victims. Chairperson, in response to the challenge, the South African government declared it as a priority crime and identified factors such as bail, sentencing, victim empowerment, capacity building, environmental designs, integrated services as a crucial pillars to end this case. Government also established the Sexual Offences Court, an innovative measure to improve the prosecution and adjudication of sexual offences cases. The courts maintain a conviction rate of up to 80%. A ministerial advisory task team was set up in 2012 to strengthen these cases. Another achievement is the Tutuzela Care Centers for rape victims and victims of sexual and domestic violence. A 24-hour stop centers based at the hospital was also established. At the Tutuzela Rape Victims Centers, rape victims have access to all the services such as police, counseling, doctors, court preparations, and the prosecution. If the medical examination happened within 72 hours of the incidents, post-exposure prophylaxis is given to the victim, thereby reduce the risk of HIV infection. In 2011, the UN Secretary recognized the Tutuzela Care Centers in South Africa as the world best practice model in the field of gender violence management and response. Family violence, child protection, and sexual offenses were also established at the police station in order to ensure that the friendly services to victims of rape, sexual abuse, and domestic violence are to eliminate secondary victimization. We have also launched the 24-hour gender-based violence command center in our country. And I must say that this is one of the best command center that we have in our country, and it has received 3 awards internationally. And explaining the reason for this award, the Contact Center Management Group said, the center represents the first integrated technology of its kind in terms of social service delivery in South Africa and arguably in the developing world. The Commission of Gender Equality also has a toll-free number to assist those who are emotionally and sexually abused. In order to give effect to this campaign, Honorable Minister, we must go back to the basics. Government must reintroduce the commitment to call for an action where government departments, especially in the criminal justice system, and all other stakeholders are requested to commit to a year-long program to eradicate this violence. The commitment should be made on the 10th of December, and the progress on the implementation of the plan is reported on the 25th of November the following year. This will encourage government to have a well-coordinated program of action for the entire year, and that will reach to the grassroots level. Perhaps it is time we start to put more resources on moral regeneration programs and campaigns. Perhaps it is time that, Honorable Minister, we enter into continuous national dialogues that we'll be doing from the 25th to end and empower the victims of violence. Perhaps it is time that all victims of violence break the silence and talk about this case. Maybe it is time that our courts starts giving harsher sentences to all the perpetrators of our violence. We need to start hawking the talk. The message must be one, but with different voices. I thank you.
The Honorable Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. Molweni nonke. Welcome to all our Dawn members, human rights and gender activists in the gallery. I wish to dedicate this address to Petra O'Neill, a former Dawn leader who was lost in the Himalayas. Her life was committed to the empowerment of women and their families, standing up for human rights and dignity in order to create a warm, cohesive society free of racism and prejudice. We salute you, Petro, and will continue your mission to unite all South Africans around the values of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. The topic for today's debate is Moving a Non-Violent South Africa Forward astounds me. How can we claim that South Africa is non-violent, considering the daily news headlines, from the tragic case of a little girl in Kraaifontein walking from school innocently to have a dog set on her and being attacked by an angry, violent man? A 13-year-old girl was raped by 10 men, and up to date, no counseling has been given to her or her traumatized family. We need departments to work together. We need the police to do their jobs. We need social workers to intervene. Social workers who are overworked, understaffed, and underpaid. This is a major issue, as it's impossible for them to do their duties. Our government needs to address this. 2 8-year-old boys were found bludgeoned to death beneath plastic covers in an abandoned building behind the Germiston mortuary. The man accused of this was beaten up by community members who were taking the law into their own hands as they feel outraged by this atrocious act. We need to stop feeling outraged after the act and start taking preventative action. Patrick Wisani, a former ANC Youth League leader, allegedly shambocked his girlfriend Nosipho, to death. He also threatened and assaulted 2 state witnesses, Nosipho's twin sister and her friend. This gentleman motivated his application for bail before the elections on the ground that he was an ANC youth branch chair and wanted to campaign for them. No sense that raping and murdering a woman mattered, and no belief that he would be unwelcome in the party. This is the man who was supported by his friends and even joked that he would start an ANC branch in prison. Does this show any respect for the rule of law? Perhaps he's just following the example of his leader, JZ 783. One can't help remembering Kwezi and the fate she suffered. The ANC Women's League and Minister Batupili Dlamini were part of the Bayan chorus, vilifying the suffering victim and supporting the accused.
Order. Honorable Robinson, can you take your seat? Take a seat for a while. Yes, Honorable Khatebe.
Honorable Speaker, I'm raising one point of order, in particular Rule 14P, Joint Rule 14P, that we cannot use offensive languages against the people who are sitting in this house, like the President.
Honorable Robinson, can you please withdraw what you said about the...
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen, can I finish with Honorable Robinson?
No, I'm taking a point.
I'd like to finish with
taking a point of order to defend
I'm
my member.
dealing with the other point of order before I move to the next. Honorable Robinson, can you just withdraw what you said?
No, she won't withdraw. She won't withdraw.
Honorable Robinson. Honorable Robinson.
Yes.
I am addressing you and I'm asking you to withdraw what you said.
Madam Speaker.
I'm afraid I...
Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, I'm trying to defend my member.
Honorable Steenhuisen, let me finish what I'm doing before I come to know. You are not going to come in.
Order in terms of
Honorable Steenhuisen,
I am taking a point
I will
of order.
Attend to your point of order once I'm through.
To this one.
Once I finish with the first point of order, no. Don't scream at me. Can you take your seat? Honorable Steenhuisen, can you take your seat? Honorable Robinson, can you withdraw?
Honorable Speaker, I'm confused. What is derogatory by saying
Please withdraw.
783? I can't. I don't know what's derogatory.
You are casting aspersions on the Honorable, the President.
I said...
Please,
Speaker, who is
please
JZ?
withdraw, Honorable.
Who is JZ, Speaker?
Please
Who is
withdraw.
JZ?
No, don't withdraw.
Is he a member of this house, JZ?
Honorable
JZ 783 is he a member of this house?
Honorable Dozie, I didn't give you the floor. Can
But
you please
you are not recognizing
take your
us.
seat, Honorable Dozie.
You are not recognizing us.
Take your seat. Take your seat. Honorable Robinson, can you withdraw?
Honorable Speaker, with great respect, I cannot withdraw simply JZ
Honorable Robinson, if you are not going to withdraw, then I have to ask you to leave the podium.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Robinson.
Madam Speaker, may I address you, please?
I would like you to leave the podium
Madam
and
Speaker,
actually
may
leave
I
the
address
house.
you,
On a
please?
point of order.
Madam Speaker, may I address you, please?
Honorable, I have not given you the floor
May I
yet.
address you, please?
No, you are not going to address me before I finish what I'm dealing with.
On a point of order.
Honorable Robinson,
Madam Speaker, you are a joke.
Honorable
A complete
Robinson,
joke.
I cannot withdraw simple JZ783.
I
The
would
cap
like you
fits,
to
wear it.
leave the podium.
Madam Speaker.
On a point of order.
Yeah, we're going. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Steenhuisen,
Madam Speaker, you're confusing Rule 84 and 85 of the National Assembly rules with the joint rules. There is no provision for you to have made the ruling that you've just done. We will see you in court and embarrass you again.
They quoted the National Assembly rule on a joint sitting. How do you call a chief?
On a point of order, Speaker.
You quoted the National Assembly rule on a joint sitting.
can we allow the honorable members who are taking leave of us to leave? Then we can proceed.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Yes, I'll recognize you. I just want those honorable members to leave. Order. Order. Honorable Shibambu.
Do know, Speaker, we need to be protected, all of us in the house here. And when something that is grossly unfair and unreasonable and unthinkable happens, we have an obligation to stand up to speak against them.
What's your point of order,
Point of
Honorable
order is that
Shibambu?
you are out of order for ordering a member to leave the house for saying JZ783. What is offensive of order?
Honorable Shibambu, I will not have you pointing a finger and saying what you are
I can
saying
point at
to
you.
the
I'm
chair.
talking to you.
I will
make
not
gestures.
allow that, Honorable
But I can
Shibambu.
make gestures.
Honorable Shibambu,
Under which rule is that then?
under Honorable Shibambu,
Under which
you
rule is
will
that?
not scream, you are not going to shout at the chair.
Under which rule?
I forbid you, Honorable Shibambu,
Under which rule?
to shout at the
Under
chair.
which rule?
And I order you to take your seat.
But I'm addressing you.
Take
that you're
your
out of
seat.
order.
You are being rude. You are being rude.
I thought you're going to grow
Honorable
up after the
Shibambu,
marriage.
please
I thought
take
after the
your
marriage
seat.
You're going to grow up. You're
Take your
childish.
seat.
On a point
You don't
of
know what
order.
they're busy with there.
Take your
On a
seat,
point of
Honorable
order.
Shibambu. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, what is the point of order?
The point of order is that there is no need for us to argue about this matter. The honorable member cast aspersion on the president. He didn't kill anyone. So we cannot have members of parliament lying into this house. That is a lie, a blue lie.
Honorable members, I would like to proceed and call on Honorable Hlophe to come and address the
Speaker.
House.
Speaker,
Why are you standing, Honorable Ndlozi?
I'm requesting to be recognized by you.
I want to recognize Honorable Hlophe, a member of the EFF, to come and address the House.
I want to raise a point of order on the Deputy Chief
You
Whip of the
don't
ANC.
raise a point of order standing on your feet when you have not been
I
recognized.
must raise it by jumping.
Honorable Ndlozi,
There's
please
no-
take a seat, Honorable Ndlozi.
I'm rising on a point of order, Speaker.
Don't rise. Take your seat.
I must do what? I
and
must jump on a
don't
point
rise.
of order.
I'm telling
I
you
must
not to
dance on a
rise.
point of order.
Take your
I must
seat.
sing it. What must I do?
Take your seat.
I am rising
But
on a
I am
point of
telling
order.
you to take your seat,
Under
and
what
then I will
rule?
tell you what next to do.
Speaker,
No, Honorable Shibambu, please take a seat.
but we are raising a
No,
point of
don't
order on the
don't
deputy
rise.
whip.
Take your seat.
Yeah, Penny, can you recognize us before we...
Take your seat.
Can you recognize...
I don't know if you will ever allow Honorable Shope of the EFF to speak. Now, is it going to be the chief whip or is it going to be everybody raising their hands? Honorable Shibambu.
Speaker, we raised on a point of order to call a point of order on you. Then the Deputy Chief Whip of the dying ANC stands up to give a justification that is not related at all, and even says that people are lying here. You don't call her to order, you do not deal with that. It's inconsistent of you. Like, I honestly wish, or I wish you had gone to honeymoon forever because you're not helping us with anything. You take irrational decisions every day, like you are degenerating this house deliberately.
Honorable Shibambu,
supposed to be honoring
I will make a
16 days of
ruling.
activism
I will
here,
make a
and you are
ruling
doing
later
that
on the
for-
matter.
On a point
you are
of
raising.
order, Speaker.
I recognize Honorable Shope to address the House.
On a point of order,
Thank you,
Chair.
Speaker.
Speaker,
Thank you, Speaker. We have
On a point of order.
Honorable Shope now.
on a point of order.
What's the point of order, Honorable?
Thank you. The chief whip of the...
On a point of order, Speaker.
Has called you by
On a
your
point
name.
of order, Speaker.
According to rule 40.
Baleka Mbete, on a point of order. We can't allow
He cannot
people
do that.
like Mandla Mandela to instruct our DSG to sit down. It's not going to happen. If you are failing to do your job, then get someone else. Now, if Mandla Mandela is issuing instructions here,
Can you please
and German
take,
Card
can
and
you
everyone
please
else-
take your seat? I've heard you,
Don't
Honorable
play games with us, Wena.
Katebe. Honorable members, I will rule on these issues later, as I've said. Honorable Shope, please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Women and children have suffered the most from the neoliberal reality of the past 20 years, and it seems as if ANC is very comfortable about the status quo. The ANC government has failed to break the vicious cycle of triple oppression for women and children, particularly in township and rural areas. It is women and children who continue to be discriminated against the most of the basis of race, class, and gender. Women and children Galanga, Alexander, Marikana, Mlazi, Nanda, Kwamashu are victims of this vicious cycle of violence because the ANC government intervention have been superficial, half-hearted, and based on an incorrect understanding of the root cause of the vulnerability of women. This is why HIV women in KwaZulu-Natal are forced into sterilization by the ANC MEC Usibongiseni Dlomo. This is why women living in abject poverty in Gauteng are sterilized and put into contraceptive injections without their permission, and when they find out they are paid millions to keep quiet. This is the ANC for you. This is why a child in Alexander was swept away when the heavy storm caused havoc last week, and the ANC is very quiet. No statement, nothing. And this is why rape culture is embedded in our university, across institutions. That is why it always assumes that the victim is lying all the time. No one is protecting women this side. As it happened in UKZN during FISMA's fall protest in October and recently at Wits University. What is that we must then understand about violence against women is that there's no political will from the ANC. Why these superficial, half-hearted and misguided interventions to deal with violence against women and children? What is that we must do then as a society about violence about women and children? Gender-based violence and antisocial activities against women and children are reinforced and sustained by the appalling condition of our people in townships and rural area, particularly black people. Our people remains landless. ANC does not want to give land to our poor people, especially women. They remain landless, they remain jobless and moneyless, have no dignity as human beings. There is no dignity as women in this country under ANC leadership. A solution to women and children
is emancipation of all our people. We must transform the lives of our people from one of structural violence as a foundation to deal with violence, including violence against women and children. And this is why solution to violence against women and children is beyond the ANC. ANC is failing dismally, is failing, is beyond. Only emancipation of our people beyond the ANC will allow for a minimum of 50% of women representation in all economy and political participation. Even here in Parliament, you can see the representation of EFF. We have women in the majority. Gender education and training to be essential in all forms of society. Educate police on gender justice and establish specialized law enforcement unity to deal with these women and children-related crimes. Strengthen education on men on patriarchy, sexism, misogyny. And also engage custodians of tradition, faith leaders, and other cultural practitioners to collectively find means to combat oppression of women. ANC must just go and take EFF manifesto, start from our funding manifesto, is there, is a public document. We are teaching you because ANC does not have any clue how to deal with women issues. ANC Women's League is just a disgrace. Must stop. The ANC Women's League, they must just be irrelevant in all the time. They are known as howlers in court. They are fighting factional battles of the ANC because they are not protecting all women who must go to court. Even yesterday, the ANC Youth League leader was found guilty by killing his woman. But where was the ANC Women's League? Was nowhere to be found. Please do yourself a favor. Go and read our manifesto. We are going to teach you when you take over as government of the EFF, we are going to emancipate all our women. I thank you.
The Honorable Van der Merwe.
Honourable Speaker, in February 2013, the lifeless body of teenager Anine Boysen was found in her hometown of Bredasdorp. For a moment, our country stopped and reflected on the brutality of her murder. For just a moment, our country was devastated that a young life could have ended so cruelly. Briefly, we all rallied behind her family, and for a fleeting moment, our nation stood united in admitting that violence against women and children had reached crisis proportions. But as the media attention around her death and her family and her town faded, we went back to our old lives. Violence against women and children continued, complacency set in, and more lives were lost. Far too many to mention. It goes without saying that blaming government's inaction alone today will not help us. For many of us are products of broken people, of broken homes, and of a broken political system. Some who find themselves at the mercy of this brokenness are not able to rise above it on their own, and so they rely on us to protect them. This has been the aim of the 16 Days of Activism campaign, which government adopted in 1997. Now, in 2016, the fundamental question is, what has changed? Well, government has not done much. The implementation of most programs and policies are below average and marred by delays and insufficient budgets. As a result, the potential effectiveness of interventions are undermined. Survivors are often denied access to support. Further violence is enabled when protection orders are not enforced. Very few rapes result in conviction. Survivors are generally denied justice. This is our government's legacy, and again, it shows that there's no political will to address gender-based violence. In fact, the National Prosecuting Authority deserves to be named and shamed for only securing convictions for approximately 10% of sexual offences cases reported to them in the past 2 years. Shockingly, in at least one court in our country, the conviction rate was as low as 1%. But finally, it is the morally corrupt ruling party overseeing a broken political system that failed the late Kwesi and many women like her. We honour Kwesi's memory today. And it's the same morally bankrupt ruling party who chased female protesters who stood in her honor at the IEC Center earlier this year. And while this morally bankrupt ruling party now fights for its own survival, while focusing its efforts solely on protecting President Zuma, the critical issues facing women will continue to take a back seat. Speaker, if we fail to right these wrongs, we will come again to this podium in 2017, having forsaken another 54,000 women whose rapes we could have prevented. Surely, we cannot move forward together when we are leaving so many behind. I thank you.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable members of this House. South Africa has extremely high levels of gender-based violence. The violence takes many forms, including sexual violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, harmful traditional practices, including forced early marriage, bride kidnapping, ukutwala, virginity testing, and female genital mutilation. Honorable members, allow me to congratulate the SADC Parliamentary Forum for adopting the very first model law on eradicating child marriages and protecting children already in the marriage. It's the model law, the first in the world. Honorable Speaker, violence is used as a tool to keep women in their places. It is therefore important that incidents of violence against women are not viewed as isolated events, but as an effect of systemic and structural gender inequality. These forms of violence regulate and restrict women's sexuality and ensure that women are confined by patriarchal gender roles. A woman is killed every 8 hours by an intimate partner in South Africa. Over 200,000 women are attacked every year, or murdered, or raped, or sexually assaulted. 37% of men surveyed in Gauteng admitted to raping a woman, with Western Cape having one of the highest levels of domestic violence, sexual assault, rape, and murder. During 2015-2016, a total of 42,596 rape cases were reported in South Africa, marginally down from 43,000 reported in 2014-2015. These statistics are symptomatic of a society that has been brutalized and dehumanized, a grim legacy of apartheid, where many structures were destroyed to serve the interests of white monopoly capital. At the core of the violence against women and children lie unequal power and gender relations, institutionalized patriarchy, sexism, and other harmful discriminatory beliefs. One of the many challenges we face is for the Domestic Violence Act and other legislation, including regulations, to make accessible and to translate into effective legal preventative measures. Honorable Speaker, the National Freedom Party recommends the following: increase in national awareness campaigns, have dedicated programs for young girls to empower them, revise the life orientation curriculum at schools, encourage involvement of all stakeholders, stringent bail conditions and sentencing, have specific programs for men forum that will include teaching the boy child that violence against women and children is not right. The National Freedom Party also believes that parents need to do their part in raising children who will contribute to a non-sexist society. If parents are still raising their children in a manner that makes boys or girls to have sexist mentality, we will not win the battle against gender-based violence. Government has made significant strides to ensure formal equality between men and women in South Africa, yet government alone will not be able to ensure substantive equality. Society must buy into the concept. Each and every one of us have a duty to contribute towards attaining substantive equality between men and women in South Africa if we are to combat the scourge of violence against women and children in our beautiful country. I thank you.
The Honorable Macheke.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable members. We can change the story that sees a woman and a child violated every day by a member of our society. We can, as we must, choose a future where women and children live free from violence, because violence against women and children is preventable. South Africa has a progressive framework for a consistent and integrated approach to preventing violence against women and children. This framework, amongst others, makes it clear that gender inequality is the core of the problem and it is at the heart of the solution. Programs driven by state institutions to realize gender equality must be intensified and directed to where it is mostly needed in the rural areas, informal settlement, and other areas as well. South Africa that is free of violence against women and children is where women and children are not only safe, but respected, valued, and treated with dignity in private and public life. Violence against women and children must be addressed on multiple levels and in multiple sectors of society simultaneously, taking direction from the people. In this regard, community outreach and mobilization should encompass a range of interventions and approaches. This approach should include community meetings, training and sensitization sessions. Traditional authorities, religious communities, cultural activities, and many other sectors of society should be at the center of this community outreach and mobilization approach. Honorable Speaker, we must take advantage of our traditional tools of communicating to spread the fight against women and children abuse and make this fight a daily campaign. Society must be mobilized to engage in a day-to-day campaign against women and children abuse. Mass media that include radio, television, billboards, and others must also be used on a daily basis to reach out to a wider segment of our communities. We should also take advantage of the technology, like use of cell phones, to reach out to as many citizens as possible. Civic education is the greatest tool at our disposal to change behavioral patterns. Edutainment is a particularly useful strategy that entails a process of purposely designing and implementing a media message to both entertain and educate. Entertainment education has a particular appeal to young people and may present a special opportunity to affect norms before they are fully set. Putting together community outreach strategies and mass media campaigns could prove very innovative and helpful in mainstreaming the fight against women and children abuse. Finally, Honorable Speaker, ultimately our communities must condemn women and children abuse, promote women independence and decision-making in all facets of life, and strengthen positive, equal, and respectful relations between and among women and men and girls and boys. I thank you.
The Honorable Groenewald.
Achtbare Speaker, I must say that I'm quite disappointed that we have a debate like this and then speakers of political parties come here and they try to score political points. That in itself is the misuse of women and children trying to score political points. If we say that we respect women and children, it's no use blaming political parties. It is no use blaming the police or social workers. We must ask ourselves, what do we do to protect women and children? That is the question. You should ask yourself, do you set an example to say that I respect women and children? That is the core problem in our society, because we don't have discipline anymore and we don't have respect for each other. And if we want to solve the problem of violence against women and children, we must start to ensure that we respect each other. Achtbare Speaker, ons het nie die volledige prentjie as dit kom by geweld teen vroue en kinders nie. Ja, as ons gaan kyk na die misdaadstatistiek, dan sien ons dat seksuele oortredings is in die omgewing van 50,000 per jaar en dat dit afneem. Maar dis nie die volledige prentjie nie.
Point of order.
Honorable Groenewald, can you please take your seat? Honorable Mbata.
Madam Speaker, can you please ask the audience not to clap hands, please?
Yes, indeed, members who are our guests in the gallery, please do not participate in the proceedings by also applauding by clapping your hands. We ask you respectfully, we welcome you, but please don't participate. Honorable Groenewald.
Maybe they only appreciate the good speech, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, wat ek wil sê is dat as ons kyk na misdaadstatistiek, gee dit nie 'n volledige prentjie nie. Ek het byvoorbeeld 'n vraag gevra aan die minister van Justisie en in die afgelope laaste 3 finansiële jare was daar nie minder nie as 264.619 beskermingsbevele wat deur ons howe uitgereik is. Die probleem is dat daar is nie 'n kategorie spesifiek vir gesinsgeweld nie. Baie keer is dit 'n aanrandingssaak, dis 'n poging tot moord, dis aanranding met die opset om ernstig te beseer en dit word verwring in die totale statistiek. Ek het reeds begin by die portefeulje komitee en polisie en ek kry goeie ondersteuning daar. Laat ons die statistiek begin skei, laat ons duidelike prentjie kry van wat is die omvang van geweld teen vroue en kinders en dan spesifiek gesinsgeweld in Suid-Afrika. Ek sluit af om te sê, jy moet na jouself kyk. As jy respek het vir jouself, sal jy respek hê vir vrouens en kinders. Ek dank u.
The Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we're standing here today. It's another year, another debate. More moral indignation, more inert platitudes. More calls for action, more idle promises. Violence against women and children is first and foremost an issue of morality, more specific, a lack thereof. Morality refers to sound or cultured values, codes of conduct, or social mores and beliefs about what is right and what is wrong behavior. As far back as 2012, Archbishop Thabo Makgoba warned President Zuma of a need for the leadership of our country to act morally and ethically if we were to achieve moral regeneration as a society and as a nation. Since then, we have seen both instances of immoral and unethical leadership and behavior. But it is not just Mr. Zuma and his executive that has erred. We, the representatives of the people in Parliament, have erred. So what is the end result? Continued violence against women and children. Just yesterday, like Honourable Van der Merwe said, an ANC youth leader was found guilty of shambucking his girlfriend to death. The extent and heinous nature of the Isidimeni massacre grows day by day. The majority of the victims being mentally and physically challenged, women and children, the most vulnerable in our society. The death toll now stands at 37, with rumours that it actually stands at 60. And still, there is no accountability, no responsibility, and no consequence. In 2014, I called on the executive in this parliament to take action after yet another toddler was brutally murdered by her mother, after neighbours reported the abuse to social workers and SAPs on numerous occasions. On 25 October 2016, 3-year-old Poppy, Louisa van der Merwe, died at the hands of her stepfather, Kobus Kukamur, who kept her to death. Once again, neighbours reported the abuse to SAPs and social workers. What was done? Nothing. No accountability. Who failed Poppy? The system, the executive, members of this parliament, who under the tyranny of the ANC majority has acted immorally and unethically in not holding the executive to account. This year, Kwesi died. By her account, she was violently abused by a father figure. She was violently abused by the ANC supporters outside the court and in her neighborhood by number 1 supporters, such that she had to flee from her country. She was buried in private. Even Kwesi's silent protesters were abused by the president's security on national TV in August of this year. If we are to stop violence against women or children, we need ethical leadership and ethical political representation. And it's clear that we ain't coming from the ruling party. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Tagley.
Thank you, Chair. There is a bridge in the Cape Town suburb of Brooklyn that is passed over by thousands of cars every day. And under this bridge, 1-year-old baby Lily's life was changed forever when a man abducted her and violently raped her there. One can only imagine the internal bleeding and damage. It is actually unusual for children who are raped at such a tender age to survive, but Lily was found alive and taken to hospital. She will never be able to have children of her own and suffers from STDs, but she is a fighter and wants to live. With remaining trauma in her spirit and a scarred body, little Lily, who was born to alcoholic parents living on the streets, is being nurtured back to health and life at an NGO in Cape Town. Now, not a day goes by when we don't hear about children and women being raped and murdered in our communities. And NGOs and CBOs in South Africa who exist to provide temporary safe havens for children and women in crisis are too often unable to help every person in need and are forced to turn some away. As hard as this is, a severe lack of resources leaves no alternative. Now, the ACDP calls on government to prioritize adequate funding of organizations that have actually proved capable of providing much needed services for women and children in crisis. The ACDP is also disappointed that the Minister of Human Settlements has not expedited the special needs housing policy that would benefit women needing to leave abusive relationships. It is over a year now since the Minister responded to the ACDP question regarding this policy, giving details of the process to be followed before any new policy is approved and introduced. Sadly, the housing needs of thousands of violated women, children, and other people with urgent special housing needs have been all but ignored for the past 2 decades and continue to be ignored, despite the fact that our Constitution guarantees the rights of all people, including those who are most vulnerable and most in need, to have access to adequate housing, as well as their rights to equality and dignity. And we urge you, Minister, to prioritize this. Alcohol and drug abuse are so often on the scene when violence takes place, and the repercussions in the lives of victims and their children are significant and tragic. It also impacts negatively on the economy and budgets. Even the damage alcohol inflicts on preborn babies through women drinking while pregnant resembles the aftermath of violence. Of course, women don't drink to intentionally harm their babies, but the statistics on children in South Africa with varying degrees of brain damage due to fetal alcohol syndrome are staggering. Many babies exposed to alcohol in the womb are permanently damaged and end up on the streets. Even the less severely afflicted have learning difficulties. They often get in trouble with the law, misuse alcohol and drugs themselves, and become victims of deviant sexual behavior.
Honorable Tagli.
And in turn, the abusers. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Tix.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable comrades, members of the public, welcome. Honorable Chairperson, it shows political bankruptcy when a political party in this House, during a debate on women, comes and attacks the president when we have to discuss violence against women. It shows that they are politically bankrupt. And there is a saying that if you hit, they have left now, there's a saying that if you hit the master, if you hit the owner, you'll find the dog coming to the defense of the master. And we have seen that's what happened in the House. When we attacked hit the dog, when we attacked the master, the owner, the dog came to the defense of the master, and that's what happened in the House. Honorable Chairperson, in the...
Honorable Dix, take your seat. Honorable
Chairperson, I think that you've heard yourself, the honorable member is calling honorable members dogs. It's irresponsible, and he must withdraw. He should have stopped at the idiom and not say you should have seen that when they left the dogs, he extended the idiom. It's a basic problem of English, I guess, but you can't call other members dogs. You can't.
Honorable Joseph.
Okay.
Honorable Dix, take your seat. Can you take your seat so that I make my ruling?
Okay, thank you.
You are quite correct. You captured it very correct. It was an idiom. Can you continue, Honorable Dix?
Okay. Honorable Chair, let me withdraw. No, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, let me withdraw. Let me withdraw.
Honorable Dix, can you take your seat?
Maybe Honorable Dick will understand what it means to have dignity. We are asking you to withdraw the statement
He has
about
done
dogs.
that. Honorable member, he has done that.
No.
He has withdrawn.
No, he did not. When?
Honorable Dix, can you repeat that?
I am withdrawing and I'm rephrasing it.
Continue.
When you hit the owner, you will find that the dog will come to the defense of his owner. Full stop. Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson, in the South African context, colonialism
On a point of order.
and
Honorable Dix, can you take your seat? Honorable Shibambo.
No, look, that idiom is very problematic because, in essence, chair of the House now, it says that when JZ783 was mentioned, now the dogs came to his defense. And people had to be chased out of
Honorable
the House.
Shibambo.
How do you refer to people who defended people?
No.
They're defending him for the JZ783. And
Can you take your
can't
seat
call
so that
them
I make
dogs
a ruling?
like that, okay? It's not allowed.
Can you take your seat so that I make my ruling? Honorable members, you know that you can't stand on a point of order and debate with the speaker at the podium. So that's what we are doing now. Can you continue, Honorable Dix?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, in the South African context, colonialism and the unequal social relations of capitalism and capital exploitation of women resulted in the triple oppression of women based on race, class, and gender. Because of these historical unequal social relations, women in South Africa are subjected to physical, sexual, psychological, and economic abuse and violence. This horrendous abuse and exploitation against women continues unabated to this day, and hence this debate on the 16 days of activism of no violence against women. As the African National Congress, we have identified economic empowerment of women as one of the instruments to fight the scourge of violence against women. It is for this reason that the ANC in 1994 adopted the Women's Charter in order to advance the total emancipation of women. At the ANC 2012 policy conference, we demonstrated our commitment to fight against the scourge of violence against women, resulting in a radical shift and acceleration in the area of socio-economic transformation where gender issues need to be mainstreamed, hence the creation of a women's ministry in 2014. Over the last 22 years, this government has created many programs to empower women. In KwaZulu-Natal, we as the African National Congress, we have taken a conscious decision that all state departments, including municipalities, have to establish women development units and add those units to the performance contracts of accounting officers by 2017, March 2017, on the 31st. We have taken that decision because we are very, very serious that women needs to be empowered. The Ministry of Women in the Presidency needs to coordinate and monitor these programs in all government departments. As the ANC, we call on the Ministry and Portfolio Committee to embark on a national roadshow, especially in the rural communities, to assist our women in accessing these many government programs and services that are available to them. Indeed, the ANC is a caring and loving organization. Whilst the government has done much to empower women economically, the structure of the economy remains problematic. All government efforts will not succeed unless we radically transform the private sector. The private sector remains predominantly male and white. In order to empower women and effect real economic change in South Africa, we need to confront white monopoly capital. This is the real enemy of our revolution and empowerment of women. Our revolution and white monopoly capital cannot cohabit. It excludes women and oppresses them. We need to confront this challenge. Monopoly capital is corrupt in its very nature. All facets of South African society is controlled by it, the media, the academia, business, and the economy. They have not just captured it, but owns it. And this is the demon that we have to defeat in order to build a non-sexist, non-violent society. Our struggle was never about a few black tokens dining at the table of white monopoly capital after 1994. Women will remain economically disadvantaged as long as 4 white families controls the economy of South Africa, in which these neoliberals are representing, and which their friends on that side supports them. Women, and especially rural women, will remain impoverished as long as 6% of the...
Honorable Dix, honorable member.
Thanks, Chair. I want to ask the Honorable Dick if he can take a question. I've got a serious question that is pending.
Yeah, let's ascertain whether it's ready to take a question.
It's a pending question.
Can you take your seat, Honorable Dix? Honorable Dix, are you ready to take a question?
I will take it if I have time. I'll take it just now if I have time.
Honorable Dix,
Okay.
are you ready to take a question?
I can't take it now. I'm busy. I've got no time.
Honorable member, can you take your seat? He's not ready to take a question. Continue, Honorable Dix.
Women, and especially rural women, will remain impoverished as long as 6% of the population owns almost 80% of the land in this country. And earlier this year, when we voted on the land expropriation bill, the Democratic Alliance voted against that bill because they are not in favor that land needs to be transferred to the majority of black people in this country. They are only interested in black votes, but they are not interested in black lives. The EFF was not even present in the House, and yet they are claiming that black people do not have land. They did not even attend the vote on the expropriation bill. This scourge of violence against women will continue. We need to...
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
No. The Honorable Dick is misleading the House. We were there, we debated on that bill. So what he's talking about...
Honorable member, can you take your seat? Can you take your seat?
So the Dick must not do that. He must not do that.
That is a point of debate. It's not a point of order.
Yeah, but the Honorable Dick
Can you
must
take
not
your seat?
mislead the House.
No, can you take your seat? Can you take your seat?
Okay.
Continue, Honorable member.
Point of order.
What's the point of order?
Honorable House Chair. Honorable Dick is abusing us there with his lies. He's in fact misrepresenting the facts.
Chairperson, order.
But that is not a point of order. I've already made a ruling. It's a point of debate. Can you continue, Honorable member?
Chairperson,
Sorry.
Honorable Mbata is just called repeatedly so, calling the Speaker Honorable Dick. And he knows very well that he's not Dick, he's Honorable Dick. He must correct that right now.
Can you continue, Honorable Dix?
Chair, order. Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Shop.
Yes. Honorable Dick was named by his parent, not us. So it's his name.
No. It's Honorable Dix.
No. Okay.
Can you continue, Honorable Dix?
Honorable.
We thought it's a silent S.
Honorable.
No, Honorable Dix. Continue, Honorable member.
Honorable Chairperson, I forgive them. These children has been sent to Parliament to come and play fools here. That's what they are doing here. They're coming to play fools here. They're not serious about anything. The only thing they want to come and do is playing fools here. That's what they are doing here. We need to confront white monopoly capital head-on by moving national, provincial, municipal, primary banking and secondary banking investment accounts.
Honorable Dix.
Can you please tell Dick not to call people children? We're not the children, Chief.
Okay.
We're not the children.
Okay.
Yeah. You must withdraw that immediately, and then you must speak to principal issues here.
Okay.
We're not your children. You must respect us when you speak here. Every time you speak, you must respect us. Okay?
Okay. Honorable Dix. Yeah. Honorable Dix. Order members. Yes. Honorable members, I'm appealing to all of you. Refrain from anything that will compromise the decorum of the House. Honorable Dix.
Yeah.
must be respected, and Honorable Dix also refer to members as honorable members,
Okay.
not as children.
Continue. Honorable Chairperson, I'm withdrawing that they are children. The Honorable Shavambu is not a child. He qualifies to even pay maintenance too. So he's not a child.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Dozie.
Honorable House Chairperson, I think you can realize that the honorable member wants us to degenerate. Unless he wants us to pay maintenance for him as well. Because we can't abuse this platform like that. Can he stick to the script? You have not called him to order, number one, for telling lies to the country that we were not present during the debate on expropriation. Now he's talking about maintenance. Maybe he wants to be maintained. He must tell us.
Honorable Dozie, can you take your seat so that I make my ruling? Honorable members, order. I appeal to all of you that refrain from anything that will compromise the decorum of the House. Honorable Dix, can you continue?
No, Chair.
Point of order, Speaker. Point of order.
Chair, he can't continue. He must withdraw those remarks. If he wants to continue, he must withdraw those remarks against our Deputy President, because he's casting aspersion against our Deputy President. Secondly, Chair, I understand his problem. He once applied to be a member of the DA, and DA rejected him. So that's why it's like this.
Honorable Hlophe. Honorable Hlophe, I've made a ruling. Can you continue, Honorable Dix?
Point of order, Speaker.
Honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable member that's at the podium at the moment, his surname is Honorable Dirks. Now, Honorable Speaker, including yourself, is pronouncing the name incorrectly, which is adding to the confusion in the House. So can we correct that and refer to the Honorable member as Honorable Dirks? Thank you.
The point of order is sustained. Thank you, Honorable member. Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, given this important debate, I believe it is absolutely correct that we should say that it's not casting aspersions if a person pays maintenance. They are doing the right
But
thing.
what is Comrade Naledi speaking on? Which point of order, which number? She can just stand and address us like that.
Honorable Dozie.
But on what is she rising? Why didn't you ask her? On what is she rising?
Allow me to make a ruling.
No, but firstly you must be consistent. On what is she speaking?
Honorable Dozie, can you take your seat so that I make a ruling? Then
No, she's out of order. You're out of order.
Can you take your seat?
Yes, sis.
Honorable members. Honorable members. You can't make a point of order on top of a point of order. I'm making my ruling now. That was not a point of order. Let's allow the honorable member to conclude the debate.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, let me just quickly, before I conclude my debate, just respond to that remark that was made that I once applied to be a member of the DA. That is a lie from the pit of hell. As a Christian, it's very good that we have the honorable Reverend that's part of this house. He must bring a Bible so I can swear on that Bible. I have never applied to join the DA. I do not know where they get these kind of rotten rumors from that they want to spread to discredit members. I was never a member of the DA. I was never a member of, and I've never applied to be a member of the DA. Honorable Chairperson, in conclusion, Honorable
Point of order,
Chairperson.
Chair. I've just Googled the application. Your application is here.
Yeah, bring it here. Bring it here.
You applied.
Right.
Honorable member.
did apply.
Honorable member, you know that is not a point of order. Can you conclude, honorable member?
Bring it.
Honorable member, you can't entertain him.
My time. Honorable Chairperson, is a sad day that on the day that we are discussing no violence against women, that we find in the House that the opposition parties abusing women in this House, especially our Speaker of the House abusing her and then speaking about no violence against women. We are saying that as long as we adopt this mentality to abuse women and to relegate women to the role of First Lady in South Africa, we will not make any progress, and men needs to accept that women will lead and women has to lead in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Chafta.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, it is very much pathetic that we have this debate for today for no violence against women and children at the time when the Ngobeni family in Katlehong is mourning for the loss of their beloved daughter, who was kidnapped, raped, and beaten to death by a merciless ragamuffin who has no love, care for a woman, and lacks the respect for a human being. An innocent 29-year-old girl has been a student in the Vaal University of Technology and writing her final examinations when she was kidnapped on the 13th November this year on her way back to the university after spending a weekend at home. May her soul rest in peace. Honorable Chair, it is because of such incidents that the AIC believes this fifth parliament must allow the space and support women in parliament, as well as the young parliamentarians, to come up with the programs aimed at protecting the rights of women and children in this country. Debates like this must be accompanied by actions and programs to uproot violence against women and children. We believe that the courts need to find some ways to fast-track the cases related to violence against women and children, as the victims sometimes find it difficult to speak and defend themselves when cases drag and resulting to the perpetrators going free. Women and children must be encouraged to feel free and speak out when they experience violence at home or in the workplace. Drugs have become a major contributing factor. Maybe it will be you, Honorable Hlope, next time. Contributing factor for violence against women and children in this country. We therefore need to support women, youth formations, and all programs that are meant to fight and eradicate the excessive use of drugs. We also need to instill a sense of respect for women and children to men. The AIC had launched a campaign called Umtu Ngumtu Ngabantu. This is another way of reviving Ubuntu against the citizens, amongst the citizens of this country, and do away with the cruelty
Honorable Chafta,
that is usually shown by those who
expired.
behave like wild animals. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, count me in, count the IFP in. Under the leadership of the man you can trust, you can trust the IFP to be the voice of the marginalized, to be the voice of the voiceless, to be the voice of the vulnerable in fighting the scourge of violence against women and children in our communities. The IFP yearns for a day in the world when society will look at all of us as equal human beings, irrespective of gender of the individual. When society will accord due respect to the people, irrespective of age and of the individual. In isiZulu we say, kuhlonishwa omncane, kuhlonishwa omdala. This because respect has no age. It cuts across all ages, it cuts across gender. This is what Umntwana has taught us in the IFP. At inception of the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children in 1998, the IFP pledged its support to the cause. Today, in November 2016, we pledge yet our unequivocal support to the cause. When women and children get raped and abused in our streets, in schools, in our houses, at the workplace, it is the future of our country that is destroyed. As the IFP, we subscribe to the objectives of the cause, to expand accountability, to ensure mass mobilization, to involve technology, social media, arts, journalism, religion, culture, and customs in the cause, to acknowledge that the scourge of this violence is a societal problem, and that the solution lies with all of us as communities. Be that as it may, we further acknowledge that government has a primary role to play, mainly through the country's security cluster and the justice system. A weak and confused criminal justice system in the country is a letdown in the cause to fight against this scourge. A poorly resourced security cluster cannot have a positive impact in the fight against this scourge. The IFP calls upon the women and children of our country to speak out against abusers and report abuse to the authorities. Parliament also needs to play its role in monitoring implementation of legislation aimed at combating violence against women and children in our country. We need to also dispel misinformation on each side of this debate. It is a myth that traditional leaders are oppressive to rural women, especially the widowed rural women. Actually, rural women enjoy all the rights that men enjoy under the leadership of traditional leaders. In KZN, even before 1994, we already had regent amakhosi who were female amakhosi, female izinduna, and so on and so forth. In the same vein, it is a stereotype that needs to be dealt with harshly, that sleeping with a vision will take away all diseases. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Dikhale.
Ere ko go leboga modula setulo ke thome ka gore lentšu la modimo le re go o nyaka go phela gabotse lefatsheng o tlhomphe ba go feta goba baetapele ba gago, then ge o nyaka go ikgogolela dithogako tša lefatshe o batelele. Ke a leboga. House Chairperson, Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, other ministers and deputy ministers present, honorable members, distinguished guests. Chairperson, allow me to add the international perspective on this topic of 16 Days of Activism Against Women and Child Abuse campaign. After all, this is an international campaign used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations around the world to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls in the main. Internationally, it is widely and simply known as the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. This international perspective is important because nowadays, states are obliged to implement and enforce instruments such as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. This is so even if a state is not a signatory to this convention. And all this is thanks to what is called the due diligence standard. According to this standard, a state is obliged to take reasonably steps to prevent human rights violations and to use the means at its disposal to carry out a serious investigation of violations committed within its jurisdiction, to identify those responses, to impose the appropriate punishment, and to ensure the victims adequate compensation. In terms of this standard, a state can be held accountable under international law for the action of its citizens if it fails to take reasonable steps to prevent, investigate, and punish the actions of its citizens that violate human rights, such as violence against women. The Committee on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women also applies this due diligence standard, and its general comment 19 states that states may also be responsible for private acts if they fail to act with due diligence to prevent violations of rights or to investigate and punish acts of violence. Due diligence, in simple terms, means reasonable actions, and in the context of violence against women means not only making a good faith effort to find and implement effective measures, but also honoring non-discrimination principles by showing the same level of commitment to address violence against women as the state would show for other forms of violence. It is therefore proper that we as South Africa have acceded and are participating in the convention. On the regional front, the Southern African Development Community adopted the SADC Protocol on Gender and Development, which became enforceable in September 2012 after getting 9 ratifications. This is a unique sub-regional instrument that brings together African and global goals on gender equality and enhances this through targets and time frames. In 2015, the SADC ministers responsible for gender agreed that protocol should be aligned to post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals, the Beijing Plus 20 Review, and the Africa Agenda 2063. They also agreed that it should be accompanied by a strong monitoring, evaluation, and results framework. All these are now part of the updated SADC Gender Protocol that was adopted in June this year. Speaking of SDGs, members would recall that these are the goals that were adopted last year as part of new 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Agenda, which replaced minimum development goals. This development agenda for the first time includes specific targets for the goals and was accepted by all participating countries and is applicable to all. Again, South Africa, we are glad to be part of this agenda. Through its 17 goals, the 2030 Agenda guides global policy and action for the next 15 years until 2030. This means by 2030 we should not be speaking of gender violence. The agenda recognizes gender equality and empowerment of women as a key priority and pledges that no one will be left behind. Goal 5 of the agenda aims to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls and includes specific targets to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls. For the first time, ending violence against women and girls has become a core part of the Global Development Agenda. However, one of the major challenges to efforts to prevent and end violence against women and girls worldwide is the substantial funding shortfall. As a result, resources for initiatives to prevent and end violence against women and girls are severely lacking. Frameworks such as these Sustainable Development Goals, after huge promise, but must be adequately funded in order to bring real significant changes in the lives of the women and girls. The SDGs, therefore, by implication, call on governments to state parties to put the money where their mouths are. This is so because despite the international community's visible interest and political will to address the global pandemic of violence against women and girls, there is also a lack of adequate and sustained resources to translate the national efforts into effective programs and practices that make positive changes in the lives of women and girls. The gap between binding commitments, laws and policies in place and the lived experiences of women and girls who should benefit from them is still far too wide. Even at individual level, the lack of resources and thus lack of financial independence often causes women to stay in the abuse relationships. These women and children would rather not report the abusers to the police, fearing that if these are arrested, they will be left without support. They would rather suffer in silence so that they can have something to eat. We also know of instances whereby cases involving violence against children are withdrawn in courts because of pressure from family members. These are also because of financial considerations based on dependence on the accused. This mean justice is sacrificed because of poverty. Given these examples that I have cited, Honorable Minister, through you, Honorable House Chair, I think it is about time we considered establishing a fund to assist these vulnerable women and children. I know that we have the Victim Empowerment Program led by the Department of Social Development, but this seems to be inadequate. I also know and understand that as a country, we are under a serious budgetary constraints, but we need to do something drastically to keep this scourge. This is an essence of the SDGs. The SDGs therefore mean acknowledging the imperative of addressing violence against women must be followed by securing adequate and durable resources to increase efforts to prevent violence, provide survivors with access to available essential services and to justice, and ensure that laws and policies are implemented to real effect. This year's global theme of the 16 Days campaign, which is from peace in the home to peace in the world, make education safe for all, also recognize the dire situation for millions of girls and boys, and young women and men whose universal human right to educate is daily impacted or cut short due to lack of resources. Violence and discrimination, what is more commendable about this theme, however, is the fact that it is not limited to women and girls, but extends to all, including men and boys who are also vulnerable to abuse. Improvement of the standard of living by creating jobs that pay well to both gender, equal rights to inheritance, freedom from forced early marriages, public accountability to the rights of women and children. Honorable House Chairperson, in support of the initiative to raise funds for campaigns, such as the 16 Days campaign each year, the United Nations Secretary General initiated the Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign, which calls for global action to increase worldwide awareness and create opportunities for discussion about challenges and solutions. The Unite campaign calls on governments, UN entities, civil society organizations, and individuals across the world to orange the world, to raise public awareness about the issue of violence against women and girls. As the official color of the Unite campaign symbolizing a brighter future free from violence against women and girls, the color orange is used as a uniting theme throughout all events. This includes coloring or painting everything orange, including buildings such as Parliament. I therefore hope the presiding officers of Parliament will consider this call. We can see Parliament in orange during the duration of this campaign. In the same breath, I hope the minister will all sell this idea to the executive, and we can also see the union buildings in orange. In conclusion, House Chairperson, allow me to say to the honorable members, if you want to be called honorable members, you'll behave like the honorable members. If you want to be called children, you'll behave like children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Ngwenya.
Thank you, Chairperson. I greet you all, honorable fighters. South Africa has one of the highest incidents of women and children abuse in the world. Violence against women is mostly of a sexual nature, but there is also emotional violence, physical violence, and economic violence. On sexual violence, police crime statistics show that there are over 54,000 sexual offenses that are reported to the South African Police Services annually. This, Chairperson, translates into 150 cases per day. Most cases of sexual violence in rural areas and in townships go unreported. So the SEP statistics are not a true reflection of the true nature of sexual violence, but they indicate a very horrifying picture of the violence women and girl children get exposed to on a daily basis. Women do not go to report these cases because more often the perpetrators of these horrific crimes are husbands, uncles, brothers, and generally people well known to them and on whom women and children depend for shelter and food. So at the center of women and children abuse are economic inequalities perpetrated by the patriarchal nature of the South African society, which still views the contribution of women to the economy with disdain. These attitudes lead to the marginalization of women, to women getting paid less than men for the same job, to workplaces that are not friendly to women. And in some companies, here in the Western Cape, for instance, the women having to sit for 4 months without pay during maternity leave, Chairperson. This is so because the ANC wants it to be so. The ANC has been in government for 22 years. Without the provision of free quality education, it is the girl child who will be marginalized the most. Without the provision of free sanitary pads, it is the girl child who will be forced to miss school during these periods. Without focused policing in rural areas, it is also the girl child who gets abducted by older men with sexual transmitted diseases and are made wives against their wishes. If a man of Mr. Zuma's stature can instruct another man in the form of Mr. Mahloba to evict Manduli, his wife, from their homestead, then how much more damage can an ordinary man cause to their wives? If a minister of government, such as Mr. Fikile Mbalula, can proudly insult a woman whom he has had sex with, calling her a one-night stand, then what hope, Chairperson, do women who are lured to sex because of their vulnerability stand against these men who think they are entitled to women's bodies? If a provincial leader, such as Marius Fransman, can unashamedly demand sex from a young girl and then insult that girl as having been sent by his political enemies, what message are you sending to other young women who are daily harassed by ANC politicians? If we were a country that cared about women abuse, Kwezi would have died peacefully, knowing fully well that the man who raped and abused her faced justice. But alas, the man who forced himself on her was rewarded with the highest seat in this country. The problem of women and children abuse is real, Chairperson. It requires real action from all of us. But more, it requires that those in leadership positions should lead by example. The EFF calls on all its male members to be pioneers in their society and protect and love and cherish women and girls. We call on all our fighters to recognize that women abuse is an antithesis of our revolutionary ethos as a party. We call on all South African men to stand up and say no in our name. It is a total shame and disgrace that ANC women in leadership support these men who commit horrendous crimes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Zwane.
That was the best speech for today. It's official.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, the Minister of Women's Ministry, honorable members of this August House and our guests at the gallery. Allow me, Chairperson, to start off by saying that at the cold face of all setbacks, atrocities, and challenges of whatever nature in society stands a black South African woman taking care of grandchildren whose parents have been devastated by AIDS epidemic. At the face of it stands a black South African woman who is responsible for raising children, whose parents have had to migrate to urban areas in order to access economic opportunities. And more often than not, there is no appreciation for that kind of effort for women. At the face of it stands the poor black woman who is responsible for taking care of her own family, her extended family, her community and society. It is the plight of such a woman that the ANC government remains committed to addressing. It is through the social grant system that women that have been deserted by their husbands, that have migrated to the cities in search of work, have been able to put a loaf of bread on the table for their children to be able to eat and survive. It is through this social grant system that the girl child and all the children are able to go to school and receive their education free of charge because of the effort of the ANC-led government. Honorable Kony is coming to the podium to say that young girls are suffering in abject poverty and they are not even taken care of by the ANC.
Order, Chair.
Honorable Zwane.
Chair, if a
Sorry,
speaker in
Chair,
the podium who's very confused, confusing our members, what should we do?
Honorable Ngwenya,
She
sit
is
down.
a woman, she can't even know
Sit
who was
down.
on the podium.
I don't care.
So sit down, I must not be told by you. I call an order here. You must sit down, in fact. You are very confused today. You must not tell me to sit down. Sit down.
No. Honorable Member.
Chairperson, there's a point of order. The person on the podium must sit down immediately. There's a point of order raised. So that she listens to the point of order, you make a ruling, and then she can come back to speak. She can never instruct a member of parliament to sit down like she was doing now. So you must reprimand her for doing what she was doing now. And that is what you have to deal with. And there's a point of order
Can you take your seat so that I
the
deal
whole
with
issue
it?
of her referring to members with wrong names.
Yeah, take your seat.
Member of the
Honorable
EFF
Shibambo,
is
can you take your
Commissar
seat?
Danisile Ngwenya.
Can you take your seat? Let me start with you as the first culprit. You were not recognized. You were doing as they were doing. That is not in order. Honorable Zwane, you can't. No, take your seat, Honorable Zwane. Honorable Zwane, take your seat. Honorable Zwane, you can't exchange with the honorable member that is rising on a point of order. Honorable Hlope, with the very same spirit, it won't be in order to be the one that is instructing the member to sit down. I'm equal to the task. I can be able to deal with that. Honorable Shibambo.
So Rule 14U of the joint rules that govern this sitting,
yes,
say that the right of members to speak is when a member may speak when called upon to do so by the presiding office. So you can recognize me if you call me to do so, or
Yes.
when I raise a point of order. So it's when I speak, so when I stand up to raise a point of order, it's permissible in terms of these rules. I don't have to be recognized by you first for me to speak. I raise a point of order, it's interruptive in nature. And then you can listen to that point of order and pass a ruling thereafter. A point of order is bound to interrupt the proceedings in a manner in which it's supposed to happen. And that is exactly what we do here. So you must read these rules properly.
Honorable Shibambo, I know what I've said, and let me repeat it. Honorable Hlope was on the floor on a point of order. You can't raise a point of order on top of a point of order. You have to allow her to finish the point of order, then I will make a ruling. Can you continue, Honorable Zwane? Honorable Hlope.
Chair, now we must not appear confused there. I sat down and the Deputy President of EFF stood up to raise a point of order. I was long sit down. Secondly, I want to say, Chair, I understand this member is very old. So I don't know what she's doing here. She must be looking after Amadata at home, not here.
Honorable
That's
Hlope,
why
that is
she's
not a point of
instructing me.
order. Can you continue, Honorable Zwane?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I want to respond by saying that the honorable member of the EFF debated and said that the ANC does not care about the plight of poor girls. I want to say that with regard to sanitary pads, when the NCOP went for a provincial week, when we were at the meeting with the MECs, the MEC for education was on his way going to distribute sanitary pads for poor girls because the ANC cares. With regards to the issue raised by Honorable Hlope, also, she maintains that the ANC-led government has not shown any care with respect to addressing or attending issues of violence against women and children. The ANC is the only party in this room that has legislated and passed a litany of legislation to protect women and children above any other party that has done before. Honorable Robinson argued and said that DSD or the ANC-led government is not doing anything about the situation of social workers in the country in order for them to take care of the welfare issues of the children. I want to say that the ANC-led government has actually issued out bursaries for the training of social workers. And today to have got 57,000
Chair.
trained social workers.
Honorable Zwane.
Of
Will
those,
our
Honorable Zwane,
will
can take
our
your
honourable
seat.
speaker take a question on how many of those
No,
social
Honourable-
workers are
Honourable
actually
Mates.
working that have
Honourable
received
Mates,
bursaries?
you can't
Will
do
she
that.
take that question?
Yeah.
Because she sits on that committee and she knows how social workers get bursaries and they don't work. So will she
Honourable
take
member.
that question?
You know that you first have to ascertain whether the member is ready to take a question.
sorry.
Honorable Zane, are you ready to take a question?
and not now.
He's not ready to take a question. Continue,
thank
Honorable
you.
Zwane.
But just for your information, DSD continues to issue out bursaries. 15,000 social workers have been employed. The placement is continuing, and the issues that you are raising are going to be addressed by the very ANC. And then Honorable Daddy argues again that the ANC does not care about the plight of women and violence against women and children. I want to say that the ANC does not take responsibility for people who actually perpetrate violence out there. They are not sent by the ANC. But it is the very ANC that has fought for tougher sentences for perpetrators of violence against women and children. So let us be honest and be realistic. There is no other party in this room that has done anything that is tangible towards addressing the plight of poor women and violence that is perpetrated against women and children. And we deserve to applaud the ANC-led government for that. The other issue, Chairperson, that I wanted to raise is that it is disgusting for members to come to this house for such an important debate and they turn the house into a daycare center. Abantu abasibukayo lapha emphakathini senza lento eyenzeka la endlini kuthi ngoba namhlanje kudebatewa ama
Madam Chair.
issues of
Okay,
women
Honorable
and
Zwane,
children.
Honorable Zwane, can you take your seat? Honorable member.
Can a member take a question about the man in Joburg
No.
who have shambogged his girlfriend and now in jail?
Honorable members, it's part of the procedure. You can't say a member can take a question and ask that question. The member must first confirm whether he's ready to take a question. Honorable Zwane, are you ready to take a question?
I'm not interested.
He's not ready.
You are a coward.
We appreciate the effort of the Department of Basic Education in 2014-2015 of rolling out a national training program targeting meta trainers. The purpose of this training program was to enable educators to identify and respond to violence against women and violence against children, including gender-based violence. The teachers and children were trained to speak out against abuse, and there was advocacy programs that were created in order to ensure that learners in schools feel safe and they are confident in reporting violence and taking action, as well as to reorientate the learners who have undergone experience in being violated. This is not to suggest that the culture of upholding and protecting women's rights in schools has been fully realized. Far from it, violence in schools is actually a reflection, as we speak, of what is actually going out there in communities. So as communities, as societies, we all have to take responsibility in ensuring that we put our shoulders together to fight the scourge of violence against women and children. That is why the ANC-led government has introduced the 365 days of no violence against women and children. And it is the only organization that has done that so far. And that is why we have shifted from the concept of 16 days to 365 days of no violence against women and children. In institutions of higher learning, there has been an increase of level of rape, and therefore the institutions of higher learning have taken it upon themselves to ensure that there are task teams that are being set by individual universities to investigate on the issues around gender violence and report those immediately so that the perpetrators can be quickly taken to task. I want to say that those that are speaking about the issue that there is a person that can actually emulate another person on issues regarding rape and violence against women and children are wrong. Go and study your psychology. The issue of being a raper or a murderer or of a perpetrator of violence against a woman and a child is the issue of character. It's not an issue that you can copy from another person, be it a president, be it whoever. It is your issue, and it speaks to your upbringing, it speaks to your parenting, it speaks to your character. So don't make mention of other people's names to say, I am copying from so and so. You are an adult in your own right. You know what is right, you know what is wrong, and therefore, whether you call it JZ, whatever you call it, but all I know is that we've got a president of the Republic of South Africa that has not been convicted of any crime related to rape.
I'm afraid also time has expired. Honorable Kaula.
Ngiyabonga sihlala lapho ngaphambili. Bengifuna ukwazi ukuthi uthini ngomangameli noKhwezi.
Honorable Minister.
But Chair, Honorable Chair, just tell us, you recognize Honorable Kaula. When she speaks, you just switch off her mic. What is that now?
No, Honorable Shop, I started by saying, Honorable Zwane, I'm afraid your time has expired. Then there was no speaker at the podium. Then when I recognize Honorable Makaula, I realized that she's addressing Honorable Zwane, who's no longer at the podium.
Chair, follow up, Chair. But why did you switch off her mic? Because we're supposed to tell her that now Zwane is not on the podium. Why are you acting very rude? Where does you get those powers? You don't have those powers, Chief. Please behave.
Can you take your seat, Honorable Minister? Can you?
Kancane sihlalo. Ngicela ungali-abuse ilungelo lami. Uyabona lento okukhulunywa ngayithinta thina abantu besifazane. Mangabe wena uvikela umangameli wakho, stop ukwenza kumina. Ngicela umbuyise eze lapho manje mangethe bangifuna ukumuza.
Honorable Kaula, can you kindly take your seat?
Uyaxolisa ukuthi ucishe lana imic ngale kwemvume yami
Yebo, Tata isitulo sakho mama.
Uzombuyisa kodwa manje la ngoba ngifuna ukumuza ngiphendule.
Uqedile.
Ah udlala ngathi wena.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to welcome all the contribution made by members in this very important debate which deals with violence against women in our country. I also just want to emphasize that as the department, but also as government, we are committed to fighting this scourge of violence over 365 days. Hence the approach in making sure that we go to various communities, districts, urban and rural, through the national dialogues, and identify why, as a country, are we not able to have reduction in the scourge of violence against women in our country. I also need to indicate that the Department of Human Settlement, Honorable Dudley, has a program of empowering women through giving houses to women, but not only that, empowering women constructors in that particular sector. and making sure that 10% of disability people have access to housing. I think I need to bring that to this House. Honorable Imam, I welcome the issues you've raised about national awareness, stringent bail conditions, which we all, as this House, have to participate. The scourge of violence in our country, it's not a political matter, it's a societal program which requires all of us to hold hands in fighting that. That is why we are taking a multisectoral approach in making sure our outreach program, everybody participate, lawyers, social workers, our partnership with social development, we believe will yield results and make us better. Access to justice cannot be compromised in our communities. Honorable van der Merwe, I am surprised about the tone and the language which you're starting to use in this House, calling us that we are corrupt, we are bankrupt. I think your tone and the change in respect of this particular debate, I am highly disappointed by your language. You are one member which we always discuss issues together and are able to come up and share on what programs do we need to come up with in our country. Honorable Robinson, unfortunately, is not here. I need to indicate the Honorable Youth League member, we welcome the sentences being found guilty yesterday. The ANC does not condone any violence against women and children in our country. We also want to say one of the issues, the ANC can't tolerate any abuse, hence its stiffness and in its judgment against the honorable member or the leader of the ANC in this province who has been suspended from the organization. It shows that we are tough on those particular issues. I must also bring to your attention that the ANC's manifesto over the years have spoken and formulated laws which deals with violence against women. I still want to see the EFF manifesto. I haven't seen that. If it does, it copies our own policies, it copies the Freedom Charter, because we are the only party in this country which is legitimate and coming up with the best laws.
Honorable Chair.
I must
Honorable
also,
Minister.
EFF manifesto is a public document, is online, is there for you, ANC, to read it and implement it. It will help you. Unless when we take over, we are going to show you how to lead.
Honorable Shope, that is not a point of order. Honorable Shibambo.
But Chair, on a point of order, so the minister says that she has never seen the EFF manifesto and she wants to talk about it now. She says she's copying the Freedom Charter and she has not read it. That's confusion. I think we must call a point of order on confusion and schizophrenia of wanting to speak about things you've never seen in your life. So get yourself time to read first and then you will speak about the EFF manifesto. Only after you
That is a point for debate. It's not a point of order.
We're raising a genuine
We are
point of
debating
order
with the speaker on the
She's
podium.
misleading the House because
Can you
she
take a seat?
admitted now that she has not seen the EFF manifesto, but you want to talk about it.
Honorable Shibambo, can you take a
It's
seat?
misleading, Chair. You must have to give a ruling that she must stay away from misleading. this
Can you
particular
take your
House.
seat? Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just want to indicate that I don't need to read that because they've emulated all the ANC policies, but also they've claimed the Freedom Charter, whilst they know
Honorable
we
Minister,
are the custodians.
Can you take your seat, Honorable Member? While rising.
Chairperson, I stand on Rule 91. The member on the podium must not distort facts in terms of the manifesto of the EFF. She does not know it.
Honorable
she
member.
must not talk about
Honorable member.
it. That's
Honorable member.
distortion of facts. She must not do that. She's a minister, she knows better. Do not distort facts about the manifesto of the EFF. You have not read it. It has nothing to do with your Freedom Charter.
Honorable members, the first thing, there is no Rule 91 that is speaking to that. The second point that is very important. If you are rising on a point of order, you can deal with the issue of procedure, not a content of the speech. Honorable Minister, continue.
Thank
Chair,
you very much.
Let me just remind
As
the
a-
minister that Mantuli Zuma is also a woman need to be protected by ANC.
That is not a point of order. Can you continue, Honorable Minister?
Thank you, Chairperson. Is this ANC which has made sure that we meet our international obligations, the CEDAW which we have endorsed?
Honorable Minister, Honorable
Kancane.
Kaula.
Ngiyabonga. Ngiyakuthanda uyahlonipha hey. Hayibo siyafa inhlamba lapha ya. Abathukeli khona okwangaka. Ngicela ukwakungibuza ukuthi bazothombisa la noma bazonzana.
Thank you. Honorable members, order. Honorable members,
Inhlamba lento ayishilo umzwile.
honorable members,
Uyathukana.
I'm once again appealing to all of you, refrain from anything that is dealing with the decorum of our August House. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Uyathukana. We have endorsed all our international obligations and we are proud as a country that we do comply with international laws. But as this House, I also want to propose that we must endorse the age of marriage in South Africa to 18 years for girls, so as to make sure that education become a priority to our girl children in our country. I also want to bring to this House that as a Department of Women, we are working on a policy of sanitary towels as directed by the President. We hope next year we'll be able to conclude where government has a clear policy instead of depending on others. We as a country and South Africans, we believe that the issue of violence cannot be attributed to one section of the community. It requires all of us to make sure that we participate in ensuring that our women and children are safe. When it comes to issues raised by Dudley, Honorable Dudley, when it comes to Dudley, Yafana. When it comes to the issue raised by the honorable member, when it comes to the relations of trade and industry, we support the Minister of Trade and Industry and Health by raising the age of those who can access liquor in our country, because we believe that part of the violence in our society is led by the access of drugs and alcohol, and that tends to lead to many abuses we experience in our country. We welcome that. We hope this House will support that bill and make sure that women are protected as we see that the abuse we face in the country is escalating. I want to call upon all members of this House, join us when we go to your area and access the dialogues, participate, because we will be skilling and we're linking the dialogues to skilling and the empowering of women. We don't want for women to continue to be dependent and become victims of abuse. By making sure that they get empowered, it will allow women to get their dignity and self-respect back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, all of us want to be counted in to say no violence against women and children. Let me take this opportunity to thank our guests for their excellent behavior. That concludes the debate and the business of the joint sitting. The joint sitting will now rise.